If you've been around here for more than a minute, you know how much I love talking about and teaching about boundaries. Now, part of that is for personal reasons, because I come from a good but quite enmeshed and codependent family that I didn't even realize was enmeshed and codependent until I understood what those things meant. And about 10 years ago, really started to understand more about family dynamics, more about my role in things, more about how these dynamics were impacting me. And then I discovered boundaries. I started learning about boundaries. My eyes were open to what boundaries were and how I had very bad ones, and often none at all in areas that really I needed to have them. And so I started doing my own boundary work. I started to really try to understand boundaries and how to figure out how to have them. I was looking at what was like stopping me from having them, what was kind of making me feel anxious about having them. And then learning the power and the transformation that comes from having healthy boundaries in our lives. How boundary work is so much more about learning how to say no, and really this beautiful, deep process of building our self-worth and really understanding who we are, what we want, what we like, what we don't like, what's okay with us, what's not okay with us, and what we're willing to do to negotiate through those things in life. And so today I want to talk to you about some signs that you might need some stronger boundaries. Now, these are ones that definitely have come up with me. And even now, when I notice them come up, I'm like, oh, this is a boundary issue, Julia. When you're feeling this way, when this is starting to happen, it's because you're slacking. You're not paying attention. You're not listening to yourself. You're not respecting yourself, and you're not keeping your boundaries. And some of them are ones that I've worked with clients and students around. I have a Healthy Boundaries Bootcamp program that hundreds of people have gone through to really learn how to have those rock solid boundaries, those strong boundaries, but kind at the same time, and really going deeper again to look at the fact that all of us know how to say no. All of us generally know what's okay with us and what's not okay with us, but we are not saying no for some reason. We are not speaking up and holding our boundaries about what's okay with us and what's not okay with us. And we have to look at these deeper stories, these deeper beliefs and ideas about things that we are taught, we are told, we observed, we absorbed throughout our life that has brought us to this place of not having good boundaries and then struggling and often suffering because of it. And so I hope that today you take from this talk these 9 signs that you need stronger boundaries, as not to feel down on yourself, not to be like, oh my gosh, I've got so much work to do, but to be like, okay, great. This is more clear now. I know why I'm struggling with some of these things, and I know I haven't been feeling as good as I could because I need to do more boundary work. And then I hope that you will take the next steps to do that. Yeah? Okay, so let's get into this in just a second here. If you're new here, my name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and the creator of my membership community, the Shift Society, that is full of the most incredible humans doing this work at a deeper level with accountability, with tools and step-by-steps and community and support. You can get more information, get on the wait list for the Shift Society in the description below. Either way, my name is Kristina, and I help heart-centered humans break through the crap that is holding them back so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And if you haven't already, if you could just take a second, hit the like button. If you get something out of this video, that would be super helpful. And then subscribe if you haven't already, so you get notified when the new videos come out. But let's get into this and let's talk about signs that you need stronger boundaries, that you need to be doing some boundary work. And again, not just because, it's good to have boundaries and it's, good to be able to say no, but because it's this beautiful kind of like cause and effect relationship where the more you allow yourself to set healthy boundaries, the better about yourself you feel. And the better about yourself you feel, the more you respect yourself and allow yourself to set your boundaries. And it just goes kind of back and forth. So I want to advise you or recommend or invite you to start small. Just sort of start small into this boundary work, and then just start, slowly going into it. And then also being curious. If you ever have any resistance to setting boundaries, to ask yourself why. And to just get curious about that and be like, what is coming up? Why am I stopping myself from setting this boundary? What am I afraid of? And usually we don't do things out of fear, right? There's some kind of fear there. If I set this boundary, if I say this, if I speak up about this, if I assert this, if I take care of myself in this way, then what's going to happen? Why are you not doing it? All behavior is purposeful. So if you're not doing something, or if you are doing something, depending, it's for a reason. So the first sign that you need stronger boundaries, better and healthier boundaries, is you feel guilty for saying no. Guilt in sort of its adaptive form is something that is not a bad emotion if it's going to be used to deter us from doing something bad or wrong. So guilt, because you don't want to feel guilty, right? Guilt is something that is like a normal feeling when you have done something quote unquote bad or wrong, whatever your definition of that is, or your society's definition of that is, or whatever. And so that is what that is reserved for. Now, the thing where we get it messed up is that often many of us feel guilty for saying no, as if we have done something wrong, if we are respecting our own preferences, our own needs, our own limits, right? Our own energy, and that we've done something wrong by saying no to something. And so really looking at that, do you feel guilty for saying no? And is it because somewhere in your head you think that it's bad or wrong to ever say no? The next sign that you need stronger boundaries is, along with the guilt here, you feel guilty for taking time for yourself. And for many among us who were brought up in sort of this hustle culture where you have to always be going and doing and producing, and you're never allowed to, put your own self first. You have to put everyone else first, and you have to do everything for everyone else. And I'm not saying that it's bad to put other people first, that it's bad to look out for other people, it's bad to be out for them. Absolutely not. But when it's continuous, constant, and to your detriment, and there's never any space for you in your own life, that causes problems and leads to things like anxiety and depression and low self-esteem and a host of other physical health issues, because the amount of stress that it puts on us to never be taking care of ourselves. We talk a lot about self-care as things like bubble baths and like walks out in nature, but self-care is also setting healthy boundaries, caring for ourselves enough, respecting ourselves enough to respect our own wants, needs, preferences, limits, and energy, or whatever that is, to be able to consider ourselves in the equation of our own lives. Guilt is reserved for when we have done something wrong. Now, I want you to get curious about why you would feel guilty for doing something for yourself, why you would think that that is wrong. Who told you that? Who taught you that? Where did that belief come from? The next sign that you need stronger boundaries is you feel guilty. Again, guilt. Guilt and boundaries. You can see how these are going along together pretty nicely. You feel guilty for asking for what you want or need. Again, it's about considering yourself in your own life, right? It's feeling guilty if you ask someone for help. You feel guilty if you make a request that someone doesn't speak to you in like a rude or harsh tone, that you feel guilty for asking for some time off, some time to yourself, for needing to take a break, for needing to maybe go for a run in nature or whatever that is. You feel guilty for asking for what you want or need. You feel guilty for saying that you would prefer to go to one particular restaurant that, the rest of the group didn't suggest. You're in a group and people are like, where do you want to go? And you're like, if I say where I want to go and then people go there, and what if some people don't really want to go there but they're going along with it anyways? And, what if they're going to be mad at, what if I've been being selfish by suggesting we go to this restaurant and then everyone goes along with it, right? And feeling guilty for that. It's so interesting the things that our brain tricks us into feeling guilty about because of often our low self-regard, because of our low opinion of ourselves. It's so low that we think that anything we do is bad or wrong. And that can also be a big issue with shame, which I have a video that just came out recently about shame. I'll put the link to that in the description. It's an important one that I think everyone needs to watch. If you do struggle with a lot of guilt, then chances are there is also a lot of shame, and some shame work needs to be done. So you can watch that video after this. The next sign that you need stronger boundaries is you feel like you have to bend over backwards to cater to others. So there's that part of it where you feel like you have to bend over backwards, you have to do what people want, you have to please them, you have to, abandon yourself or neglect yourself for the sake of others always. Now, again, I'm not saying it's bad to put ourselves aside for people. It's not bad to, just like put other people first sometimes. Absolutely. That's part of relationships. That's part of that. But if we're always doing that to our own detriment, then it becomes a problem. Again, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and a whole other host of issues that comes along with that. That you feel like you need to continuously put other people's wants, needs, preferences, whatever that is, before your own, to the point of that self-neglect. And then the second part of it is that you become bitter and resentful as a result. Don't they know that I'm exhausted? Don't they know that I already have so much on my plate? Don't they know that I've been so busy all week and can't possibly take one more thing on? And the answer is probably not. Probably not, which is why they asked, which is why they are relying on you to be able to set your own boundaries, because other people can ask, which is not a problem if we don't have a problem with setting our own boundaries. So if you always say yes to things, then you're just training people that no matter what they ask, you're going to say yes. So they're going to keep asking because they assume it's not a problem if you're saying yes. But it is a problem because you have this belief that you have to do what other people want or need or think you should do. But what if you don't? If you are bending over backwards constantly for people and you're exhausted and end up feeling resentful and upset about it, you need stronger boundaries. The next sign, similarly to this one, is you often feel exhausted and worn out from all that you do for others. That you feel like you're running around trying to meet other people's needs, meet their requests, be there for people. And again, it's great to be there for other people, but when you're doing it to your own detriment, to your own exhaustion, to your own bitterness and resentment, then it is a problem. So if you are running around trying to keep all these balls in the air, not only your own balls in the air, but everyone else's as well, then it's time to get some stronger and some better, healthier boundaries. The next sign, and this is a tough one, especially for my helpers and my healers and my empaths and my highly sensitive people who genuinely do care deeply about other people's well-beings. But if you think it's your job to fix other people or solve their problems for them, or feel pretty continuously preoccupied and anxious about other people's problems and perhaps their lack of agency, their lack of sort of willingness to solve their problems, and you often worry about it, think you need to fix it, but then they don't, you feel anxious, you feel worried, then that is a sign that you need some stronger boundaries. When we get all enmeshed into other people's stuff and are almost like carrying their burdens for them, that is a boundary issue because we can't fix anyone else's problems. Now, we can be there to support them. We can be there to listen to them. We can be there to offer some suggestions if they're open to it. But, as my great-grandfather used to say, take my advice and do as you like, because that's what people are going to do anyways. And it doesn't mean that you can't, be concerned about somebody else's well-being, especially something that you love and care about because you want the best for them. But being so enwrapped in it, so enmeshed in it, having your own well-being, your own mental health, your own emotional state completely dependent on that person and how they're doing and what they're doing, that is a boundary issue. That is codependency. That is enmeshment. And that needs to be addressed, or you're going to continue to suffer and struggle with this. So that is a big sign that you need stronger boundaries and really looking at, right? This stuff runs deeper. It runs into that like codependency and enmeshment, and really just like having our own emotional state completely intertwined with somebody else's. That is a learned thing. And it can often be because there was things in your childhood. There was a parent with, a mental illness or an addiction issue, or who was really controlling, or had like physical illness, or like everything centered around that parent. And maybe you had to adapt to their mood, because you had to kind of base your mood off of their mood. So you knew that you would be significantly impacted by their mood if their mood was off. And so you had to kind of try and, kind of like dance around them and sort of keep the edges sort of clean around them so that they wouldn't spin out, because then you would suffer from that. Right? So maybe there was this sort of codependency, and there's a lot of different reasons why codependency we can learn codependency, but those are often the big ones when there's one person in the family, usually a parent, who everyone has to center around, where their needs are most important. And if their needs are not kind of met by everybody else, then for lack of better words, other people in the family get punished for it, right? There's consequences for it. And so learning how to like fuse your emotions to that person is a safety. It's a safety behavior, right? It's to try to keep ourselves safe so that we can anticipate what's coming, so we can try to pad what's coming, so that we can try to prevent what's coming. But then as adults, we continue to do that, right? We continue to kind of fear people acting a certain way or treating us a certain way if we don't do what they want, if we are not who or what they want, if we're not kind of fixing things for them, then there's going to be this consequence. And it could also be because we genuinely really care about someone and we want for the best for them, but then you have to get curious about the difference between caring about and wanting the best for them and being really stressed and anxious if they aren't happy or feeling good or living their life in like this really positive, productive way. If they're struggling, how much are you struggling as a result of their struggling? And really getting curious about that. The next sign that you need some stronger boundaries is you often feel like other people take advantage of you and they don't appreciate you. So you feel like you do a lot for others, and maybe you do, like I'm not here to say whether you do or don't, but whatever your perception is, that you do a lot for others and they just don't really appreciate it. You don't really feel like they recognize it, they just sort of expect it. And then you feel again taken advantage of. You feel like no one really values you. And that again is a boundary issue. When we are always saying yes and doing what other people want all the time, then they just assume that we're fine with it, that we're good with it, that it's no big deal, right? And then if we just keep doing it without ever, having any boundaries for ourselves or never acknowledging what we're doing for them or asking them to acknowledge what we're doing for them, then a lot of that bitterness and resentment can build up again. A lot of that frustration can build up again. It was really interesting. The other day, I did something for my father-in-law for Father's Day. I kind of went out of my way to get this gift for him, for my husband's dad. And I presented it to my husband and I was like, hey, I made this thing and I got this thing all put together for your dad, for the next time that we see him, because we saw him before Father's Day and I didn't have it ready for that. But I'm like, the next time we see him, we can just give it to him. And he was like, oh, thanks. And he didn't even say it like that. It was a very flat tone. He was like, oh, thanks. And I looked at him and I'm like, a little more enthusiasm, please. He's like, I'm sorry. You're right. That's awesome. Thanks so much for doing that. Because I was like, hey, I am so happy to go out of my way and I love going out of my way, but I just want a little bit more appreciation than that. Right? I didn't want to feel like it was just sort of expected. I was like, I did this thoughtful thing and I just want to be appreciated for it. And I have no problems asking for that because I spent so long feeling kind of angry and bitter and resentful. And it's not his fault. He didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't know what I needed in that moment. And I have no problems just asking for what I need, because I'd rather just, ask for what I need in a kind and sort of, maybe a little bit of a joking way. Versus harboring that bitterness and resentment, being like, he doesn't appreciate me. I went out of my way. How dare he? He never does anything like this for my family, blah, blah, and getting off and getting myself all worked up. That's not going to be helpful for anyone. So If you often feel taken advantage of or people don't appreciate you, there is a boundary issue there. Another one, speaking of taking time for yourself, if you never take time for yourself, even when you desperately want it and you need it, and you're like, I just need some time to just chill, to just relax, but I can't, but I've got all these other things that I need to do and all these other people that are relying on me and all these other things that I need to tick off my list, and you never actually take time for yourself to rest, to recover, to laugh, to play, to just be. That is a boundary issue. And it's probably because you've bought into the belief that your worth comes from what you can produce, and that's it. What you can produce and what you can do. And that's where your worth comes from. And so that's why it takes a lot of self-worth to set our boundaries. To be able to say, no, I am taking some time for me. I am carving out that time and I'm spending that on me, because my worth doesn't solely come from what I can do and what I can produce. My worth also comes from just existing. Just being, just feeling joy, feeling peace, feeling calm, feeling connected. My worth also comes from that. The next sign that you need some stronger boundaries, and this is a very basic one, but you say yes when you really want to say no. So this is a little bit different than feeling guilty for saying no. This is when you're like, you know what, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to, but I really don't want to. And then you end up again, see a theme here, bitterness, resentful, angry, frustrated, stuck, overwhelmed, trapped. If you're feeling any of those things regularly, then let's just make a blanket statement and say you struggle with boundaries and you need some better boundaries. You don't have to feel those ways so often. I mean, you don't need them. It's not like a, divine sort of message from the universe that says thou must have better boundaries. But if you want to feel better, then you need to have better boundaries. That's only if you want to feel better. So saying yes when you really want to say no. Now that's different from not really wanting to do something, but then kind of thinking of a reason why you're like, actually, I do want to do this for this person because I really want to show them that I care about them, or because they've been really great at showing up for me, or because, you know what, I just want to invest in this relationship and show this person how much they mean to me and how much I care about them. And yeah, I just want to do that. And then that's different because you've changed your thoughts around it. Now you want to say yes because you have a reason for saying yes. But if you're saying yes and you're like, this sucks, I don't want to do this, how could they ask it to me? I'm already so overwhelmed. I've already got so much going on. This is going to eat up all my time. I'm not going to have time for these things now. Now I'm going to be stressed because I'm going to be pressed for time over here, right? And then it creates all that mental drama. For you are creating all of that drama for yourself. Then it is a problem. If you struggle with saying no, get my free guide on 25 healthy ways to say no that are kind but clear. You can grab that download. It's free. Just click the link in the description below. It's called 25 Ways to Say No. And also my book, Drive Your Own Darn Bus, is all about getting in charge of your mind and emotions and becoming mentally strong and sure of who you are. There's a whole section, a whole in-depth section on boundaries in there. So if you want to get started on some of this boundary work, get my book, Drive Your Own Darn Bus. You can pretty much buy it at any retailer, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Chapters Indigo. I've had people buying it from other bookstores all around the world. Drive Your Own Darn Bus. The link is there. Get that book because that's really going to help you kind of change this mindset stuff, sort of go deeper and looking at why you're not setting boundaries, why you feel uncomfortable with it, and the steps you can start taking to have stronger, better boundaries that are kind but clear. Free 25 ways to say no. Book Drive Your Own Darn Bus. Like the channel. Nope. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. 4 things to do right now. 4. That's easier. 4 things to do right now. Let me know what you found helpful about this, where you're going to start working on it. Always good to have you here. And until next time, take good care of yourselves. Take good care of those around you. Bye for now.